Hello and welcome back to our series on modeling a data architecture. This is part 5 of a multi-part series, and we're going to pick up where we left off in part 4 by using scenarios to continue modeling and building on our data architecture for our fictitious project, our co-KMS project. This is release 2, so let's get started. All right, we're going to be using almost everything that we have learned in this channel up to this point to model and drive our delivery. And the first thing is working sets. So in working sets, if we edit working sets, you can see we have some models that we've already generated for this demonstration that we're going to launch. So let's just go ahead and launch it. Here it goes, bringing things up so we can hit the ground running. An alternative to using working sets is to go to Focus window. You can get to it from the Start tab, Design, Focus. Mine's in the upper right. It's included in my browser. And I can go to the Recent folder, and I can look for things in the last 24 hours, 3 days, 7 days, and so on. So that's another way to get to what you were last working on, but I prefer to use working sets. Now, when I'm starting a solution approach, I want to get into solution analysis as well as supporting requirements engineering. And what I prefer to do is use use cases. And so if we go into, if I just double click this, we have built out a use case here. Let me zoom in a little bit for supporting our target architecture. And it's around personalization or tailoring. And we have to start from a channel and an actor. You could just call this user, which represents unauthenticated as well as authenticated customers that we want to tailor or personalize an experience for. So we start out with a use case, and then from here, we start building out requirements to understand that. So if we right click on this and we go to properties, and we open this up, this dialog box up, we have a fully formed use case. I've shown you how to do this in a previous video for any user experience. And we started collecting some requirements around tailoring for authorized users, capturing relevant data, and specific data warehouse targets. So basically, I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. Let's look at personalization, and that's what we're going to be focused on in this session. Try to keep this as short as possible. Again, we have built out a fully scoped use case, which you've learned in the channel, and we have some responsibilities, requirements, and we've just started with the table data collection from any front-end application or any system that's contributing data for machine learning and AI processing. Now let's open up scenarios. So we'll go to the first use case. And with use cases, as soon as you double-click and launch them, you go right to scenarios. Otherwise, the only way to get to properties, well, not the only way, but the fastest way is to right-click on the use case and go to properties, and we bring up this window like this. So I'm going to double click and open up scenarios, and here we go. Now, I like scenarios to the right of the diagram, and I like notes underneath the diagram. All right, so I'm going to drag and drop notes underneath the diagram. We're going to go to pan and zoom, which I keep in my workspace layout, and we're going to make this, or try to make this fit. That's a little too small. We'll make it a little larger and then pan around. That's good enough, right? So when I select an element, I get the content and notes. I have properties over on the right, and I have scenarios in between. As you've learned in this channel, for scenarios, you put in your steps, and if you do them properly, you can auto-generate various diagrams. One of them is the sequence diagram. Let's just go ahead. I already have one. We're going to overwrite it. Not a good idea if you have already formatted the scenario or the diagram to fit a particular area or instance. So in this particular case, what I will do is format it. And then if I'm creating a particular view, adding notes and doing those kind of things during my analysis, I don't want to overwrite it. Otherwise, I'm stepping on my work, right? So don't overwrite if you've already created one. And I'll show you this in a moment. You're just basically going to synchronize. Let's go ahead and close this. Yes, thank you very much. I can save my changes. Don't want to forget to do that. Let's right click in here and switch views. We're going to go into specification view for this entire use case here, which includes actually 2 use cases. So specification, it brings this up. Let's expand this so we can read everything. This is essentially everything that's in this model, all right? So we have this particular use case in alphabetical order. We have the customer. The status is, for all of these, is proposed, and we have personalization. I want to focus on personalization. So when you have your workspace layout like this, it makes it much easier to move between your use cases and get to the scenario or scenarios that you have built for those use cases or any other element, right? So we're on personalization right now. We've already added some steps, which includes some uses column, results, and some state references if we want to generate a state diagram, right? So we have basically set this up so that we can create a sequence diagram. So let's go ahead and auto-generate a sequence diagram. All right, so go down here to sequence diagram. It's telling me the diagram already exists. Do you want to overwrite the existing diagram? And I'm just going to hit OK, right? And there we go. We have sequence diagram, and we can pull this out of here and expand it. If you have multiple monitors, this allows you to have multiple windows across those monitors. And I do have multiple monitors, but for recording purposes, I'm in one screen. So this is the sequence diagram that was generated from these steps, all right? So when we're looking at this sequence diagram, I'm gonna go ahead and close it. Here, there's something called context references. So you see everything that's underlined, which you learned in a previous video, and I'll include the link. These are context. If they aren't in context, they're basically just glossary references that you can mouse over. You can see here, this is a glossary reference on what a bus is. This happens to be a glossary reference to what Apache Kafka is, and it tells you down below. If you control click on this, you go right to the definition in your glossary for terms, technologies, and everything relevant to your business, all right? But what I need is the actual Kafka reference in context. So I go to context references. Right now I have this use case. I have cloud architecture, MLAI, data supply, and the personalization use case. So where is this context coming from? Well, it's coming from the block diagram that we had imported earlier. So if I was to select a tab and hit Control Page Up, I can go through my diagrams, and this is the diagram that that context is referenced to. So I can expand it, again, have these in multiple monitors so that I can view them. But the items that are in context here that you see for cloud, here it is right here. For AI, it's right here. And data supply, it is, let me move this diagram back over, is right here. So what I'm doing when I'm building on this, and let's go back to, we'll come back to test cases later, and then we're going to select personalization. I need to bring in Kafka, and I don't have those building blocks in here. So we're going to bring in those data architecture building blocks from our asset repository. So we're in our asset repository, which you've learned how to build in this channel, and I'll include a link to it. And we want to get to core diagrams. So let's open up core diagrams. We have 2, as well as a staging area where we work. And we're interested in data science architecture, and we're mostly interested in Data Bus Kafka, this asset right here. But we're going to bring in all of these, and there's a couple of ways you can do that. I showed you in a previous video how to create a script to go out and SQL into your asset repository and bring your assets in by asset ID. All right. In the script we built, it was object ID. You could bring it in by alias. You can even type out the full name and we'll find it and bring it into your separate project. Right? That's one way. Another way is using model library. So if you are in the Start tab and you see model library and mine's in the upper right, you can see I have a connection, and I'm going to show this to you later in my first model library. And I've done video sections on model library, but as I stated then, we're going to be using it more. I'm connected to my asset repository. And in here, I can expand this. I have delivery tools, and I have data science, and I have some packages out of the asset repository that I am sharing. So you could say, hey, I want tooling, I want platforms, any one of these you can right click on this and you can import them into your current model. And they'll bring over those elements, including all of their metadata. Then the third way is to actually use Sparx native XML, or what I refer to as XMI. It is not the OMG XMI, it's Sparx proprietary native XML. And we are going to go back to our project, and that's how we're going to bring in those building blocks. Now I'm going to go back to my common full layout workspace. And I'm going to go ahead and close Scenarios. And so what I want to do is go all the way to the top here of this project we're using, right click on it, content, and then collapse all. So it just cleans everything up. There we go. All right. Then what we want to do is we want to go to discussions where we're keeping our catalogs. Here is our company architecture catalog for discussions. This is where we brought in our original building blocks from release 1. And this is the same folder that we're going to import our native XML. All right. All right. We're in this package and we're going to hit Control, Alt, and I to bring up our import package from native XMI file. All right. And we're going to click Browse. And we had exported this after we built it in the asset repository that represent all of the elements across their various packages. So we created something with new GUIDs that we can reuse across other architecture. And let's go ahead and hit open. And then we're going to strip GUIDs because I want to keep the global unique IDs separate and unique to this project from any other reference to those IDs if they're imported into the project, all right? Even this project, you could import this, strip the GUIDs multiple times for various reasons. So let's go ahead. We're not going to baseline. I don't need to baseline these because we're not going to make any changes. We don't allow people to make changes. We're going to hit import and it's brought those in, all right? So let's go ahead and double click and open this up. Here we go. We have everything that we need as far as assets. And now we can clone this package into, let me go ahead and minimize this so we can easily see the solution approach, building blocks R2, and we're going to put them in solution approach for building blocks for data science. All right, we'll give it a name. All right, so we want to clone this. You've learned this in the channel. So I'm going to go to it. Right now it's called native data science. I could certainly rename this anything that I want, including the diagram that's in the original source. This is called data science. Like for instance, what I probably need to do or want to do is just state R1, right? Just to give it a name that I want to keep separate. And then what we're going to do is clone this package structure down to solution approach. And I can always move it around if I want to. So we're right clicking on this, clone structure as new version, all right? And this is version 1. We want it to be 02 for this project. Follow any conventions that you have set up for your team. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Now it's asking me, where do I want to put it? And I'm going to say solution approach. There we go. Now it is cloned, right? So now I can open this one. It's called native. And then you can see the diagram says R1. We want it to say R2. So we're going to rename it to R2. All right. So I'm going to close this and we're going to open up R2. Here we go. Now I have a bunch of things that are turned on that I probably should have cleaned the diagram first, but I really can't. I'm going to turn off attributes, operations, receptions, and package contents, right? Because I don't need to show these. I also don't need to show in the elements the stereotype icons like this. Disk here represents a stereotype of data storage, right? So I'm going to turn that off and let's see what it looks like now, right? It's a little cleaner. Probably want to turn off stereotypes. I'm trying to get this down as small as I can. I need to disable fully scoped. Let's see if it's a little cleaner. Double clicked it. There we go. It's a little cleaner. Now it enlarged them. I'm not worried about that. I just wanted the context reference in here and then so that I'm able to utilize any of these tools that we use in data science for our scenario. Now what I'm going to do is copy this diagram name. So I'm hitting function key 2. Control C to copy, go to the package or namespace because I wanted to have a unique name separate from the name that we have in our building blocks, in our catalog. And I don't need this anymore. I'm going to minimize it and I'm back into solution approach. All right. So I have a package here. I'm going to promote this to the top for our building blocks. And I have a package for our data science building blocks, all right? And I can bring in legends that basically highlight various tag values. We're going to be focused on Kafka, our data bus here. And if we open that or go over to properties in the lower right for me, I can select this. These are all of the tagged values that I can use to extend the meaning of this element within this project. Let's go back over to our use case. We're going to double click on this right here. And you can see in context reference, what we want to do is right click in here, add new context reference. It's in the solution approach and it's here. And we want the diagram to include the elements of there, but I expanded it and there are no elements in this package. Why is that? It's because we did not version to this release from the original package. So let's do that now. So we go back to our data science architecture, and the first one we're going to bring into our project is Kafka, all right, data bus. We're going to right click on this, clone element as new version, and is version 02, essentially taking the version from the diagram, and we're going to go ahead and do that. So now if I hit Alt G on this, I now have a new element within my solution approach package for release 2. So if I go back to personalization, select it, go to scenarios, which we had up, and we're going to right click on here again, add context reference. Now when we go into solution approach for this, there it is, and we're going to hit OK. Now we've added data bus Kafka, and we're going to go back up here. Let's refresh. So you notice data bus Kafka. Let's refresh. There we go. It is now in context within our sequence diagram. So now if I auto generate that sequence diagram right here, and we're going to overwrite, you can, and go ahead. Thank you very much. Now we have data bus Kafka as an element available in context that's going to show up. And here you can see in the sequence of events, We have a front-end application that's going to send user experience payload to data supply, which is going to use the configuration to share this, expose this data from the Kafka topic to whatever target architecture is configured, all right? So in this particular case, it goes here, and then what data supply based on configuration is going to do is also share it with ML/AI. Now, should a line go from here to here? The answer is yes, and you could go back into your steps and you could set that up. If I go back to the use case and select it, you could set that up and state that a step in here is that data bus or data supply. I probably would put data bus, and you could insert that by right-click in here, and then you could insert step above and then put in data bus Kafka post or publish to, and then whatever source. Instead of saying data supply right here, you could say this is the Kafka instance that's doing that. And when you're generating your sequence diagram, it would start aligning up your elements, right? As well as their connections or associations. So I hope that's making sense to you. And this helps you in driving requirements, looking for functional requirements, like for instance, non-functional requirements, performance requirements, like when should this data be sent to machine learning AI platform, right? Is it real time? Is it batch bulk? Is it every 5 minutes? You could start developing requirements and having discussions around the architecture as you're going forward. And the other thing that you can do is, I'll go back to personalization, select the use case in here, is you can generate activity diagrams. Let's go ahead and synchronize the elements with the existing diagram. And there we go. There are no exceptions. It's straight through. You can start generating these, driving collaboration, putting in intelligence here, and even start generating scenarios around any specific element and generate diagrams and more details of what's taking place here versus what's taking place here and so on. And because we populated the state column here with some items, you can also generate state machines. So state, go ahead and launch it. You can auto-generate that quickly. State machine diagram that you can extend into a more detailed state machine or just use it for further requirement solicitation and development, testing, and other things. And speaking about testing, you can also generate test cases. So if I go back to our use case, select the use case we're focused on, we're in scenarios, and we're in that we renamed the personalization, which P13N is the abbreviation for personalization, basic path. We can also generate test cases. So right here, we're going to generate an internal test case, and there we go, it is complete. So all of that is being done from scenarios. So there you go. That's using scenarios to help you develop and build and, of course, deliver your system architecture. And we can generate test cases. We can generate all sorts of test cases. We can generate sequence diagrams. And from these, we can start to collaborate. So in this particular case, we've got Kafka. If we right-click on here, we go to collaborate. We can open up a discussion window and we can start talking with our peers. Now, this demonstration model is in a local instance. If it's in SQL with security turned on, others, of course, are logged in and they can see what we're doing in real time and you can collaborate in real time, right? So when you're building your models and you're working with your team, you're doing presentations and conference calls, you're working online or offline, this allows you to deliver 24/7, 365. We're going to wrap up here, and in our next episode, we're going to talk about design in our data architecture. So I look forward to diving down into that one. We'll be able to go through our sequence diagrams with our design architects and data scientists. We'll be able to go through our activity diagrams and our state machine diagrams to support design. And we're going to bring in some other tooling and context, create scenarios from various elements, and deliver this architecture. So until that next episode, happy modeling.